Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sharing Wisdom. I am your podcast host, Angie Wisdom, and I'm super grateful and excited that you are here with me today because today makes the very first episode of Sharing Wisdom. This podcast has been on my heart and my mind for a long time now. I've always had this desire to give and to share and inspire others. So it's finally happening, and I'm glad that you are here with me today to experience it. A little bit about me. I originally started out in the financial industry, back in 1997. Always had a passion for helping people. And I thought at that point in time, my passion was helping people build their financial wealth, helping them figure out their legacy planning and retirement planning and all that good stuff. And I did love that. I love numbers. So that was super passionate for me. But through that process, and something you'll learn about me and finding my authenticity, I realized that I wanted to work with people around scenarios that had a little bit more control for them. And I quickly found out that I was very, very good at raising business and building a book of business. And I enjoyed helping people and coaching people on how to build their business more than I enjoyed actually creating their financial plans and playing within the market. So that led me to managing other brokers in the financial industry, eventually had me opening an alternative investment firm with my husband back in 2003, where I also coach the brokers and help them raise their book of business. So that's the world I come from. And like I said, I still love the numbers, but what I truly fell in love with was working on yourself, tapping into your full potential, being able to create this non-negotiable you that was truly capable of accomplishing and living their very best life. And that's what had me kind of making a little bit of a turn out of the financial industry into people's everyday life and business. So for the past 25 years now, I've kind of combined those two careers, and I have had such a fortunate blessing of being able to sit across the table from some amazing people for the last 25 years and really know firsthand what gets in the way for them. You know, what gets in the way of them living their best life, what gets in the way of them accomplishing at the highest level, building their business, having the best relationships, all of that good stuff. And that's what this podcast is for. I'm bringing in those 25 years of wisdom. I'm interviewing other people who have so much wisdom to share so that week after week, we can inspire you and encourage you and fill you up with the wisdom that you need to truly live your best life. I like to say, live life to your fullest potential versus really performing at your fullest potential, because that's what it's all about. You want to live your best life. And yes, that includes success and achievement, but really giving you the tools so that you can truly live your fullest best life. So with that being said, episode 1, we're getting into values. Values are the foundation, the first place you have to start when you think about living your best life. It's really what changed things for me. Understanding what my values were got me out of a place of crossing off the days on a calendar, waiting for something different to happen. And it gave me the power to know exactly what was going to fill me up and how to make my decisions. So when I have a client work with me, even in my group coaching, one of the very first things we do is go, what do you value? What do you want in your life? What fills you up? What brings you joy? How do you know what to say yes or no to? All of those questions are based around your values. And if you don't know what your values are, don't worry. We're getting into that in this episode. I'm going to help you figure out what those values are. Because when you do know what they are, you have the compass. You know exactly what to say yes and no to. You know where to go. You know what fills you up and what you want. So you get to officially say goodbye to being stuck, being unmotivated, not being clear, all of those things that show up when you don't know your values. And you get to say hello to decisiveness, joy, peace, just a well-rounded life of things that you truly love and that fill you up. I'd say that's worth sticking around for and understanding how to put it into your life. So let's talk about that. When you think about your values, I want you to think of all the things that you love, the things that fill you up. I often tell people, think back, what puts a smile on your face? What gives you that, warm, fuzzy feeling in your belly, maybe makes your heart beat a little bit, gives you goosebumps? Those are likely tied to your values. And I hope that you're thinking right now some past experience where you're like, oh yeah, I got that. I remember that. That situation, that experience, guarantee you your values are tied into that. And we'll help you figure those out in a minute here. But those values, once you know what they are, you have the responsibility to put them in your life every single day. And I'll show you how to do that too. So let's think about it from this perspective first. I want you to visualize this plate. Take a piece of paper, even if you want, or, if you're driving or walking while you're listening to this, draw a round circle for a visual, and that is your plate. Now I want you to think about putting on your plate everything that, again, go back to makes you smile, fills you up, makes you laugh, brings you joy. Think about putting those on that plate. We're creating a plate of joy right here. And that plate of joy holds your values. Some of these are going to be super easy for you to know right out of the gate. You're going to say, oh gosh, I love my exercise, or I love time with my family, or I really love to read, or I love to be in nature. Some of those are going to come easy for you to think of, and you're going to instantly associate a value with them. But some of the other ones may be a little hard to figure out what they are. And the reason being is because you probably haven't taken the time to really know what they are and put them in your life. So if we kind of pause on filling our plate for a second, we back up. Values come from the way you grew up. They come from you internally, naturally gravitating towards what you love. So when you were a kid, you probably gravitated to all the things that you valued, whether it was being on the playground, whether it was, playing in a tree house or soccer or hanging out with your family. You naturally went towards the things that filled you up. That's how we work. But what happens is over time, we get busy and maybe external noise comes into play. Maybe even our parents shape us in a certain direction. Sometimes our values can get shut out a bit, especially as you go into college, as you take that first career, as maybe you become a parent or you become a spouse. All of a sudden, there's all these other things vying for your attention. And somewhere along the lines, we make up this story that it's selfish to keep going after the things we love and we want, and that we should tend to our spouses and our kids and our job and our coworker and everything else around us. And I'm not saying you shouldn't tend to those. You 100% should. But I am saying it can't be at the cost of ignoring your own values. You see, you think that you can just start filling everyone else up, but eventually you will run on empty. Your tank will be empty and you will redline, and then you're going to run into that lost, stuck, unmotivated, confused, lack of clarity, all of those things. And that's because the values aren't showing up. So as you think about that now, go back to that plate, and you have that plate of the values that you were already writing down. You may even think back a long time ago about things that filled you up. Maybe about that last family vacation that you took, that last client meeting that really had you buzzing afterwards. When you think about those experiences, you can ask yourself some questions, such as, who was I with? What was I doing? What was I feeling? Where was I? As you ask yourself those questions, you'll start to realize some components of those experiences that start to kind of form a common thread. For example, you may say, I was on vacation and I was on this hike to a waterfall, and that was like amazing to me. You may have another time where you said, well, I was, at my kid's soccer game and the sun was out and the breeze was blowing. Maybe you're like, I was on the golf course and, it felt so good outside. You probably hear a common theme there, right? Being outside, being in nature, probably one of your values if you constantly see you love to be outside. So that second way of kind of determining your values after you go with the easy, low-hanging fruit is to think about those experiences that you've had in the past and really say, what was happening there? Why was I so full of joy? As you become that investigator and you start picking apart those experiences, you'll see the common threads and you'll be able to write a couple more of those values down on that plate of joy. It's that simple. I also have a values assessment. So if you need some ideas, it'll be in the show notes where you can download the values assessment and see some of the ones that come up for you. Some of mine, just to share what my values are so you understand, is I love alone time. It is a non-negotiable for me. I have got to have my alone time. I also have to have spirituality in my life. I love accomplishment. I love my family time. I love being in nature. So those type of values for me, they need to show up for me on a daily basis. If they don't, I'm going to feel a little bit off. I'm going to feel like I got a little bit shortchanged on the joy in my life. And you may be thinking like, well, how do we get our values in every single day? It's not that hard, you guys. It really isn't. It takes intention, but you'd be surprised how much little effort you have to put into being able to package those up and get them in your life. For example, for me, I love my mornings. Nobody is awake. I get up early. So in that first half hour of my day, I get my spirituality, I get my alone time, I get my accomplishment, and I get time in nature. I can get all of those in 30 minutes just by reading my devotional, sitting alone, having my coffee, sitting outside. That right there packages for my values in one sitting. So I want you to believe and open your mind to the fact that you do have time. You can make time if you get creative on how these values show up in your life. So that's piece one. I want you to really set in your mind is that your values, they are the juice to your life. They fill you up. They bring you joy. They're your supplements. You got to take them every single day if you want to keep operating at this higher level that gives you energy, motivation, joy, fulfillment. That is your responsibility. Now, the second best thing about values is they are actually your compass to all your decisions. How many times do you dread making a decision? You don't want to make a wrong decision. You don't want to regret what happens. You're not sure what you should choose. Most people don't love decisions because of those specific things like regret or remorse or not being sure about what it is. Well, guess what? When you know your values, you have this filter instantly to go, does this choice align with my values? Yes or no? It's really that simple. I mean, for me, I don't love a lot of social interaction. I don't love, late nights. I'm not really a big drinker. I don't like to, hang out and just chit chat for hours on end at an evening event. I do love alone time. I like a healthy lifestyle. I like time with my family. So if I look at both of those and somebody is inviting me to go to some party, now there are some exceptions, of course, but I look at my values. It's an easy decision for me to say, what do I value more? I don't want to make the decision with my feelings in that moment. I want to look at what I value. And if I look at what I value, I clearly know I'm going to make a decision that aligns with those values. And I sat here as I said that and I thought, gosh, you all probably think you sound pretty boring. You don't like to go out. You don't like to stay up late. You don't like to drink. Yes, that is me. I might be a little boring if that's what you consider it. But again, it's the values that you do love that matter and fill you up. So no judgment either way. Just know what fills you up, know what you love so that you can make decisions in line with that. And this is particularly hard for people who run businesses, people who have families where you have so many things going on. And maybe if you're a people pleaser, you want to say yes to everybody, but oftentimes that leaves you drained And then you end up having regret and remorse that you've given so many yeses away. Because you know how I feel about yeses? For every yes you give, you're saying no to something else. So if I give that yes to going out and staying out late, I'm giving a no to getting to bed early or waking up early and having that healthy day. So you've got to really understand what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to with those choices, and make sure they align with your values. Now, I will say your values don't necessarily give you the guidance to decide what's for dinner. That is still the ultimate challenge for me. I wish somebody would just give me a menu for the week so I didn't have to make a decision about dinners. Truly, it is one of the hardest things that I do every single week is decide what is for dinner day after day. So your values won't help with that except for a healthy lifestyle. But in all seriousness, understand what your values are so that you can filter your decisions through them. The last piece I want to give you about values is the motivational aspect of your values. I like to call it the soul behind your goal. Listen, if you know what you value and then you want to accomplish something and you put your value behind that goal, it actually aligns with it, you are going to get it done. You're going to put in the effort, you're going to stay the course, and you are going to go after it. But if you set a goal because maybe somebody else has something or because you want to beat somebody, like it doesn't have any real soul behind it, doesn't have that value associated with it, you're probably going to flounder. Because in the end, it doesn't mean that much to you. So why put out this effort and take the time to go after something that truly doesn't have that much meaning to you? And I see that happen often in my business because I sit down with people setting goals all the time. And whether it's setting a goal to have this beach body because that's what you see out there and you compare yourself, again, if you don't really care that much about it, it's going to be hard to stay the course. Or setting a goal on some type of business revenue simply because somebody else has a goal that they hit and you want to kind of beat that. Again, if it doesn't align truly with what you want in your life, it's probably not going to be very achievable for you. So I want you to think about, even right now, do you have a goal right now? And if you do, does it align with something that you value? So financial freedom, for example, if you're reaching for a sales goal or a business revenue target and you value financial freedom and abundance, you probably have some alignment there. Now, here's the trick to that. If your goal is way beyond what you need to define as your financial freedom and abundance, your mind is smarter than that and it's not going to go after it. And what I mean by that is, say that you currently, your company has a $15 million revenue. And that is plenty to provide for the lifestyle that you want, to save for everything that you want, to provide your legacy. Like, say it's kind of checking all those boxes. And so you, in theory, are already hitting financial freedom and abundance. But you set this goal around 50 million revenue. And you're saying, well, it's financial freedom and abundance, so that's what I'm going for. But truly, you already have your financial freedom and abundance. And by going after the 50, you would have to start sacrificing a lot of other values like time freedom or time with family or a balanced lifestyle. You're going to have a conflict there. Your mind is going to go, well, we've already got this financial freedom and abundance. Why am I going to go for this level if I'm then going to have to give up my traveling, my family, my balance, my sanity? So you have to be really careful that that value that you're aligning with your goal truly is kind of tied to what you want and that it makes sense for you. So it's a fun exercise. Think about the goals you have and assess what value, what's the real soul behind your goal here. You're going to need that when the going gets tough and you're going after those goals and you're trying to remember, like, why am I doing this? You're going to be able to pull that value front and center and say, this is the why behind why I'm going after this goal, why I'm putting out this effort. So tie your goals to your values for maximum motivation and accomplishment there. If you're tracking with me right now, you've got 3 big reasons why your values are so important. They fill you up and bring you joy. They give you that clarity and that energy to live to your fullest potential. They are your decision makers. They act as your compass so that you really know, what do I say yes to? What do I say no to? And lastly, they give you the soul behind your goals so that you have the motivation and the drive, the perseverance and determination to stay the course to truly accomplish what you set out to. I want you to think about that for a minute. If you had those values and you used them in those 3 ways, how would your life change? Your values have the ability to drastically change your life. And that's what happened to me. I was in a phase where I was showing up for everybody else all the time. I was giving to my clients. I was giving to my family. I literally would answer if someone said, what made you happy? What makes you happy? What fills you up? I would say, when everyone else is happy. I just wanted everyone else around me to be happy, and that brought me joy. And that is still true to some extent, but that cannot be your only source of joy. It can't be, because when you do that, you hitch your cart to everyone else's happiness. And what happens if they're not happy? Then you don't get to be happy? Or it becomes your full-time job to constantly make people happy so that you can then feel their happiness too? Not a path you want to go down. So what I realized in that time was I had to find my own joy. And I smile thinking about it, because I go back to this story where one day I came home from the grocery store and my husband was in the driveway, and he was loading up his Sprinter van with the surfboards and was all pumped up. Whenever the waves were good, he'd get all excited. And I got out of the car, and my excitement was I was going to try to put like the 17 grocery bags all on my 2 arms, because that was accomplishment. So I was still trying to get my values in then. But it was like accomplishment. I was going to get all these groceries in, and my husband kind of stopped me in my tracks and was excited about the surf. And what are you going to do today, babe? And what's going on? And I was like, I'm just going to, catch up around here. I'm going to do my thing, get the kids ready, get ready for the week. Mind you, this was Saturday. So I was already like getting ready for the week, and we had just gotten one day into the weekend. And he said, you need to find your thing. And I was like, my thing? I have a thing. My thing is laundry and dishes and grocery shopping and making sure that house is good. I used to call it like playing house. That is my thing. And I truly thought it was at the time. And it did bring me joy to do all of those things for my family. But it wasn't my individual joy. It wasn't something that I could have just for myself. And that's what had me truly looking into, oh my gosh, what is my thing? And I started going down the road of figuring out my values. And as I thought back about the things that brought me joy and what really filled me up, I found that accomplishment was one. That obviously the family time was there. So some of them were showing up already, but I surely didn't have alone time. I had to get that back in my life. I didn't have the spirituality in there at the time, and I wanted that to come in as well. Probably didn't have enough time in nature. So it all took work, but you figure out a way to do it where you are right now in your life. And what I mean by that is, one of the things that I figured out was this accomplishment and this recognition that I really, really loved, because I thought back to the days where I competed and I was in gymnastics. And that brought me a lot of joy. I loved competing. I loved winning. Even if I didn't win, I loved the action of competing and having a chance to win and being in gymnastics. And I instantly, don't laugh, I instantly thought I have to go back to gymnastics. You all, I went back to gymnastics like 3 times in my 20s and 30s, to the point where it was dangerous. My husband was like, you've got to find a different thing. You can't keep going back to gymnastics at this stage in your life. And he was true. The roundoffs and back handsprings got more and more difficult. So when I looked into it a little deeper and I thought, well, what was it about gymnastics? That's where the competition popped up. And it allowed me to go, okay, well, if I love competition, what else can I do in my current life and all that I have going on to fill that competition kind of box, to get that challenge and accomplishment in? And I found ways. I went on game shows. Again, don't laugh and judge. I love game shows. Went on game shows. Oh my gosh, the thrill of competing again and being able to win totally filled my cup. I started golf. talk about being, competitive. I was playing on the ladies golf team. I was entering different tournaments. So all of a sudden I found that value that once looked like something different when I was younger. I was able to go, what does it look like in my life now? So I want to encourage you, as you figure out what your values are, also be willing to see them differently in this time in your life and modify them. You may not have an hour for alone time, but you can certainly give yourself 5 minutes. You may not be able to go on vacation once a month, but parts of your vacation, whether it's alone time or reading or being outside, you can incorporate every day in your life. So it's a little bit of putting a puzzle together, understanding what your values are, how to get them in your life. But you all, it is so worth it. It's a life worth living. And when your kids see you do that, when your coworkers see you do that, your friends, you become this inspiration. And other people want to know, like, gosh, where are you finding all that joy? Why are you so happy all of a sudden? It's because you're doing what you truly love. And what's important to you is showing up in your life. So again, this is one of the most foundational pieces I worked on for myself. It's one of the first pieces I bring to my clients, because how can we make any other decisions in life until we know what truly fills us up and brings us joy? And even when I talk to someone randomly, the first thing I'll say is, if they ask me advice, is figure out what you value. Figure out what fills your soul so that you can take responsibility on getting it in your life. Because my clients hear me say all the time, you want joy, it's your responsibility to put it in your life. And that's what your values do. So I hope that you've got some takeaways here. I hope that you realize your values are worth knowing. It is worth putting them into your life every single day so that you can live life to your fullest. And you deserve it. Some people may think this is selfish, and let me tell you what's selfish. It's selfish to not fill yourself up and to show up with less than who you could be. It's selfish to show up frustrated, resentful, annoyed, and impatient because you haven't taken care of yourself. That's what's selfish. When I put my values into myself on a daily basis, I am better for everyone around me. My clients, my family, my friends, everybody. So you giving yourself what you need is not selfish. It's selfless. I'll have some worksheets in the show notes for you. So take the action. Figure out what your values are, create your plate of joy, and start tapping in and living life to your fullest potential. Thank you for joining me on Sharing Wisdom for this very special first episode. If you liked what you heard, please like, comment, share. I'd love for you to help me get the word out there on Sharing Wisdom. And jump over to my website, angiewisdom.com, Angie Wisdom Life Coach on Instagram and on YouTube. You can subscribe there. I am here to help you create that non-negotiable version of yourself who lives life to the very fullest.